It is 7:30. We will reconvene in open session this regular meeting of the Waco ISD Board of Trustees. We've been in closed session under section 551.074 of the Texas Government Code. No action was taken. I apologize for our late start tonight. I know we're about a half hour behind. We'll move through the agenda as quickly as possible. On behalf of the board, we do want to welcome all the parents, community members who are here tonight. I say it every month, but we truly appreciate your support of and your interest in the Waco Public Schools, and we appreciate all of you turning out here tonight. I will also remind you that the board's purpose is to set goals, listen to reports of the superintendent, approve budgets, contracts, and personnel appointments, and to make policy for the district. We are not here to make management decisions or solve problems of individuals, as management is the sole responsibility of the superintendent and his staff. Because we got a large crowd here tonight, if you haven't already done so, if you have a cell phone, other electronic device, if you'd make sure it's on silent so I can get through the agenda quickly, we'd appreciate it. And with that, at this time, I'd invite you to join the board as we pause for a moment of silence for prayer, reflection, meditation, or contemplation. Thank you. Before we move on to the Pledge of Allegiance, the superintendent just mentioned to me, we have the mayor here this evening. We probably have other honored guests, but we've got representatives from the Prosper Waco Board and others here. Thank you all for coming out tonight. Ms. Stanton, Dr. Polk, and the rest, thank you. With that, I guess we'll move on to the Pledge of Allegiance. Kyle DeBeer.
Thank you, Mr. President. Tonight we are pleased to have two sixth graders from Cesar Chavez Middle School with us to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Please welcome Maya Veracruz Riggins and Arturo Ubaldo. Suzanne Hamilton is the principal at Cesar Chavez Middle School and has accompanied her students here this evening. I pledge allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, students. Dr. Nelson, trustees, please join me in front of the dais for tonight's special recognitions. We'll begin the special recognition portion of this evening's meeting with an introduction of our pledge leaders who both attend Cesar Chavez Middle School. Maya Veracruz Riggins is a sixth grader at Cesar Chavez and says that her favorite subject is math. In her spare time, she plays softball and enjoys playing with her puppies. Maya's teachers at Cesar Chavez say that she's a kind student who works hard. She encourages others and makes people smile. When Maya grows up, she wants to pursue a career as a makeup artist. Maya's parents, Christina and Christopher Riggins, have accompanied her here tonight. Would you please stand so that we can recognize you and thank you for sharing your daughter with us this evening? Arturo Ubaldo is also a sixth grader at Cesar Chavez and says that his favorite subject is math as well. Arturo enjoys playing soccer and playing with his siblings. Arturo's teacher at Chavez, Mr. Davis, says he is a ball of energy and is always willing to help others. He also added, "Great things are ahead for this young man." When Arturo grows up, he wants to become a police officer. Arturo is joined this evening by his mother, Adriana Hernandez, and his father, Luis Ubaldo. Would you please stand so that we can recognize you as well? We also want to say thank you to our Adopt-a-School partner, Barnes & Noble, for donating the books and gift cards that our pledge leaders are receiving this evening. Over the past couple of months, we've had the opportunity to recognize some outstanding fine arts students for their performances in the all-region band and choir auditions. Tonight, we're excited to continue to celebrate a fine arts program that is incredibly vibrant. In Waco ISD, we strive to provide a quality, multifaceted education, and we're pleased to recognize and honor these students who have found a passion for the arts. The first group that we'll be recognizing this evening are from Tennyson Middle School's Honors and Symphonic Bands. They auditioned and were selected as members of the All-District Band. Please join me in recognizing Abilene Rios, Alex Betancourt, Daniel Alarcon, Stephanie Ramirez, and Damian Zuniga. In addition to being selected for the All-District Band, our next group of students from Tennyson Middle School earned spots in the All-Region Band, beginning with Armando Olivas, Loreli Araujo, Zario Greer, Samantha Nava, John Puente, Jordan Diaz, and Darius McLinn. The Tennyson Middle School bands are led by Assistant Director David Johnson, Assistant Director Macy Lee, and Director of Bands Kimberly Tucker. Lisa Hall is the principal at Tennyson Middle School. Up next, we'd also like to recognize a student from University High School who auditioned and was selected for the Texas Music Educators Region 8 All-Region Choir. Please welcome Tyler Mitchell. The University High School Choir is under the direction of Assistant Director Clinton Baranu, and Director Lucy Murphy. Dr. Ricky Edison is the principal at University High School. If you're a parent of one of these outstanding musicians, would you please stand so that we can recognize you and thank you both for sharing your student and their talents with us, but also for helping them to hone their abilities. Congratulations again to all of these students for their hard work and impressive musical abilities. And with that, we conclude the special recognitions portion of this evening's meeting. Thank you.
All right, we will move on to item 8, which is audience for guests. And I've had a large number of folks who have signed up to address the board tonight. So let me give you an overview of how we'll proceed. This is the portion of the meeting where we receive input from community members. Each individual will have 3 minutes to address the board on topics that appear on the agenda or other matters that you want to bring to the board's attention. If it's something because of posting requirements under the Open Meetings Act, if you're addressing something that's not on the agenda for later this evening, the board cannot answer questions, and no action can be taken on an issue that's presented during this portion unless it's already posted for action later in the meeting. And Mr. Perez, Mr. Dupuy, one of you have a timer you can set on your iPad? And you'll hear it go off, and they'll let you know when your time is up. And I will apologize in advance if I mispronounce anyone's names. You all have great handwriting. I just have really bad eyes. So the first individual to sign up is Ben Becker.
Good evening. My name is Ben Becker. I'm a father of 3 and a public school parent in Houston ISD. I have come 200 miles today because I am concerned about the fate of public education in Texas. Waco is also a special place for me. My wife and I met at Baylor and married here. I lived in Waco a total of 10 years, many of them as a member of the business community. As a matter of fact, the beginning of my advocacy in public education started as a volunteer for 3 years at Alta Vista Elementary School, one of the schools whose fate hangs in the balance of the state's threats of closure and the decision to begin privatization in Waco ISD before you tonight. Let me be clear, the possibility of even one more school anywhere in Texas being closed is a grim concern. But my wife and I, along with friends from Houston, Dallas, and Austin, come to you today to caution you to look at the bigger picture of what's at stake. Your decision to charter or partner with a third party to manage Waco ISD schools has implications far beyond these 5 campuses. To outsource your management of these schools is an acceptance of the state's power to force local school boards to give up democratic control. It's an acceptance that the state's accountability system and its chronic underfunding of K-12 public education is acceptable. I have followed the news of this board and its new superintendent closely. I know you have reservations of the state's so-called Lone Star governance program and whether this ever-increasing focus on standardized test scores is a positive evolution for public education. Closing schools is bad. No one wants to see that, but saving democratically controlled public education is vital. I urge you, do not acquiesce to the TEA, do not let them hold your schools hostage and only give you bad options. The TEA is bullying you and bullying other high-poverty districts around the state like mine. And the only way to answer a bully is to stand together and stand up. No one district, no one board can fight the TEA alone. I urge you, before you do one more thing, rally with other underfunded, overregulated districts and challenge the TEA in court. I urge you, before you make such high stakes to turn over your schools under duress, make the TEA prove that the STAR test complies with laws like HB 743. If you do, you'll find as parents who sued the state 2 years ago that it doesn't. Make the TEA prove STAR results actually reflect differences in teaching and curriculum as opposed to being simply correlated with socioeconomic status. If you do, you'll find, as UT professor Walter Stroop did, that STAR scores are statistically insensitive to instruction. The end game of both state accountability and the slow suffocation of underfunding Texas public education is privatization, partnering with third parties to run your schools via charter expansions in SB 1882, and doing so under the school board death threat in HB 1842 is a clear path to that privatization end. I ask you, will Waco ISD play TA's game and lose its schools? Will Waco ISD accept sanction after sanction and abdicate its voter democratic control of their schools? Or will you, as trustees, as stewards of Waco's schools, as advocates for public education, will you be a part of the resistance to state overreach and defend our schools? Will you help defend our children? Will you help save public education? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Becker. Also from Houston, I guess it's Mr. Becker's wife, Sarah Becker. Hang on a second. All right.
Go ahead.
Ms. Becker, when you're ready.
My name is Sarah Becker. I'm a licensed specialist in school psychology and a two-time graduate of Baylor University. I spent 8 years in Waco. It's a place that's near and dear to my heart. Thank you for hearing us today. We're here today from around the state because the only way the TEA will listen is if we're all standing together. In 2015, at the urging of parents, the legislature passed House Bill 743. This common sense legislation put time limits on how long students in grades 3 through 8 should spend taking the STAR test and required an independent validation that it measured what it's supposed to measure. The TEA has refused to redesign the test to meet these requirements in the two administrations since. After year one of this, a group of parents from around the state, including parents in Central Texas, scraped $25,000 together to sue the TEA and call them on their failure to comply with the law. TEA's response? Parents don't have the right to sue us. You know who they said did? School districts. TEA is holding Waco ISD hostage based on scores from STAR assessments that don't comply with the law. If you don't know about House Bill 743 and the controversy surrounding TEA's failure to comply, you need to table this vote tonight. TEA loves to hold school boards accountable, but no one is holding the TEA accountable. Don't make a decision because of the duress of the TEA. The stakes are too high for Waco and her students. We're here because Houston ISD, where my 3 kids go to school, is under the same duress. And we know how hard it is for a single school board to battle the seemingly unlimited power of the state. We're also here today because we believe that if school boards stand together, we have the power to question and the power to fight this flawed accountability system, a system that is destroying our democratically controlled schools and threatening the institution of public education in Texas. Thank you.
Also from Houston, Texas is Mr. Rudy Wilson. Excuse me.
Sorry, it's Mindy Wilson.
It's not even Rudy?
Not even. No.
We'll listen to Miss Mindy Wilson, and I apologize.
Hi, I'm here from Houston because the only way TEA will listen to school districts in Texas is if we stand together. The 3 elementary schools and 2 middle schools we're voting on tonight are public schools. The parents of those 2,400 children who attend these schools chose public education. As you know, public schools are required to serve all zoned kids regardless of the child's needs. Parents are able to democratically elect their school board trustees, and if parents have problems that can't be resolved locally, they can go through the grievance process. These are freedoms worth saving, and if parents have to give up these rights, has the school really been saved? Have you served these families by taking these things away from them? I understand that TEA is threatening you because they're threatening us in Houston as well. But to be clear, TEA isn't threatening our affluent schools, schools with kids who have educated parents with resources. The TEA is coming after 15 high-poverty schools filled with poor children, schools that are the cornerstones of their neighborhoods. As the HISD school board has given up their schools to private entities, we have seen communities and feeder patterns crumble, and you will too. What will happen to the public middle schools and high schools that rely on the attendance of those 2,400 students? TEA continues to force out children in poverty. They have no moral reservations when it comes to further marginalizing Black and brown children and families. They have been experimenting with education of poor populations for decades, and they won't stop until every district in Texas tells them to. Saving schools doesn't mean that we give them away and hope that nice nonprofits will love and care for them as much as we do. We know our kids deserve so much more than that. They deserve the same level of education that my kids have, plus the additional resources required to directly address poverty. TEA needs to look far beyond STAR test scores and fully understand that they, not school boards, continue to fail students. If you agree that privatization of some schools will hurt communities in your district, you need to table this vote. If you agree that the current accountability system ties your hands and punishes children, you need to stop and rethink this vote. TEA may target us individually, but their policies and practices harm us equally. We must stand together and do what's right for the children in Texas.
Next is Ms. Karina Quesada Leon.
Hello, good evening. I'm here today because this past Saturday, our district, Houston ISD, informed us that they plan to hand over governance of 15 schools to a nonprofit. It is my understanding that this board plans to vote today on having 5 schools enter into an in-district charter partnership as well. I came here from Houston to ask that we all band together because it is the only way TEA is going to listen. I have 3 children, one of which receives special education services, who all attend Houston ISD. I attended Pasadena Independent School District as a child and then came back to Pasadena to teach. I taught 8 years as a bilingual 3rd grade teacher in a low socioeconomic, predominantly Latino school. My students learned how to pass a test, but did not receive a well-rounded education. I taught prior to the passing of SB 743, and some of my little 8 and 9-year-olds on the day of the test would stay after school until 6 p.m. finishing this exam. You see, they unfortunately felt this enormous pressure from the adults in the school to pass this test. With the passing of SB 1842, it is unjust and abusive to put the weight of whether we keep our democratically elected school boards on the backs of 8 and 9-year-olds. Why do school districts continue trying to appease the TEA that has been sanctioned by the State Department of Education for systematically denying special education services by placing caps? Do we really trust that they have the best interest of our children in mind? This same TEA is who has designed the system of rating our schools and school districts. Telling Waco ISD they have to meet these standards to keep their schools open is unfair when the passing scores aren't decided until after the test has been administered. If you are playing a game and your opponent gets to change the rules of the game as the game is in progression, how long would you continue playing? All around this state, school districts find themselves fighting alone to keep their schools. Reach out to other school districts around this state. Build a coalition, stand together, and fight this lawless TEA that thus far has answered to no one. The official TEA deadline to submit these plans is March 1st, but extensions can be applied for, and HISD is a recipient of one. You still have time. I urge you to table this tonight and give it some more thought. Thank you.
From Dallas, Texas, Lynn Davenport.
Good evening. Hi, my name is Lynn Davenport. I'm a public school advocate. I have 3 kids in Richardson ISD. I'm just going to cut to the chase here. I'm here to wake up Waco. This is serious. You're being targeted by the TEA and by charters and by public-private partnerships and by privatization of public education. I've been following this Senate Bill 1882. It was co-authored by a state rep in Richardson, Linda Coop, and it's where the improvement required campuses will partner with a charter or a nonprofit. So I did some research on this Prosper Waco, which is on your agenda, and it looks like a pay-for-success scheme. I noticed that Prosper Waco has chosen the pillars of Waco. That's what they do. They do this for a reason, so they get the initial buy-in of the leaders of the communities. They get the chamber and the business leaders and the people who sincerely care about kids and they want to lift up the communities. But I have to ask you, would the elite members of Prosper Waco endorse this for their own children? Why would you allow non-educators to have access to your children? And we need to look a little deeper on this. And like I said before, it appears to be a pay-for-success scheme where they will measure the collective impact of the partnership. I'm asking this, will they bring in outside investors who want a return on their investment? If so, that means that the children of Waco will be viewed as investment vehicles. The only way to prove the ROI on this is through massive data collection on the children. And in social impact bonds, investors only get paid if education works. I've done extensive research on social impact bonds or pay for success, and this is all experimental. You weren't educated like this. I wasn't educated like this in the public schools. This is wrong. Why would you hand over the kids to a nonprofit? And let's take a look at their summit presentation, which explicitly states, why is data important to the Prosper Waco initiative? Data should drive the work we do. Data is the only way to know whether we have achieved our goals. They even explicitly state, data is increasingly important to funders. Measurable results is what they talk about. Pay for success. They say, pay for success. Pay for success? What does that mean? Whose success? The kids? Who's getting paid? I don't understand. Actually, I do understand. But I think you need to dig a little deeper, and then I'll leave you with this, which is Campbell's Law. The results of the impact investing are mixed, which, like the accountability system and No Child Left Behind, social impact bonds can result in Campbell's Law, which the more quantitative social indicator is used for social decision making, the more subject it will be to corruption pressures. Sound familiar? And the more apt it will be to distort and corrupt the social processes it is intended to monitor. Thank you.
Can you hear me? Okay. Hi, my name is Meg Bakich. I'm a resident of Highland Park ISD, a proud mother of 5 children, and an advocate for public education. Highland Park ISD, San Antonio ISD, Richardson ISD, and all our districts in the state are looking to you to be the example of courage. Because if Waco ISD, Fort Worth ISD, Houston ISD, and Dallas ISD are taken over, they're coming after the rest of us next. As a Texas taxpayer and public school advocate, I'm standing before you today to show you my support. Your community's locally elected school board, and to encourage you, parents and taxpayers, to stand strong for local responsibility and governance. If we, the people, give in and allow an appointed commissioner to come into our district and remove our locally elected representation, tyranny will reign. I want to encourage you and your colleagues to push back against the tyrannical control of the TEA that has been given to them by a legislature playing to their donors, and to ask questions publicly. Others are watching and learning. The Lone Star governance rubric, along with the performance measurements, have not been validated by any known source and has not in any way been shown to improve student achievement. Yet this board was forced to adopt this rubric as a condition of training, and as a result of threatening letter sent by Mr. Craybill nearly a year ago. The TEA is abusing their power. Where is your local control? With the TEA's new A through F accountability system, our public schools are being set up to fail based on bad standards and false accountability in order to be replaced with charter schools run by appointed boards. That's taxation without representation. Education reformers call the transformation we are witnessing a silent revolution in America. When democratically elected officials are removed and replaced by appointed boards and your voice is silenced, yours, we the people, our constitutional republic is at stake. Anita Hogue, an education advocate, answered the question, how do you transform our republic best? 1, governance, removing locally elected school officials. 2, funding, ushering in federal choice and vouchers under the reauthorization of the Every Student Succeeds Act, which will change our system of taxing and financing schools to one where the funding will follow the child. This is also a means to control private schools and expand charter schools. And 3, charter schools, replacing your local neighborhood school with a zealous for-profit agenda so that there will no longer be parent or voter input or elected school boards specifically with an aim to kill public education. Charter schools are not the answer. Charter schools are public-private partnerships, which equates to taxation without representation. Be wary of what appears helpful, but in the end, silences your voice, chains you to government mandates, and robs you of freedom. Your service during this volatile time in public education is greatly appreciated. Have courage to fight for what is ours and keep asking the tough questions, because the outcome parents desire does not necessarily mirror the outcome the state desires. parents seek an academic education of opportunity for their children, while the agency, as Mr. Crable likes to call it, focuses on controlling the next workforce and as a means for private investors to profit off our children through pay-for-success social impact bonds. Thank you for your time and the opportunity to speak this evening.
Thank you, Ms. Beckett. Next from Austin, Texas, Steve Swanson.
Good evening. The Texas Commissioner of Education and TEA must become your responsible and accountable partners. It's required in Texas law. Ask your legal counsel for help. My name is Steve Swanson, a grandparent, retired business executive, and 20-year volunteer in Texas education, including the first school closed and reconstituted by the Commissioner in Austin. This led to local and state level research on Texas's governance of education. I've learned a lot. The students and schools are not the problem. The problem and opportunity to improve starts above the schools and at the top, the Commissioner and TEA. I understand tonight you consider a partnership with a local entity focused on collective impact for community schools, hopefully not for finance and profit. Serving and saving, not harming our students, and improving student achievement demands we effectively use our time, talent, and money working together in serving both students and taxpayers. This is and has been required in Texas law and school district policies for decades, as well as our constitutions and pledges of allegiance to be one and indivisible. A new outside partner should not be needed. The Commissioner and TEA are lawfully responsible to partner with you, not bully school districts. This includes providing training and technical support and effectively using community resources, planning for and working to serve the needs of students and improve student achievement. These responsibilities are the lawful rights of students, parents, teachers, administrators, school boards, and taxpayers that still go unfulfilled. The Commissioner can still make the choice to be your partner. Be encouraged to learn your rights and invite the Commissioner in writing to start fulfilling them. The Commissioner and TEA are just as responsible for student outcomes as you are in the past, this year, and in the future. Hold them accountable. Ask your legal counsel tonight to help you stand up for your rights and those of students, taxpayers, and all Texans, and not vote tonight. Information on these rights and the F- performance rating of the Commissioner and TEA are available at seegovtx.info, cgovernmentinfo.com, or .info. Thank you for this opportunity to speak.
From Dallas, Texas, Aubrey Flaherty. Glad you sent me to it? Flaherty. Flaherty. Thank you, ma'am. From Austin, Jana McKelvey.
Hello. Thank y'all so much for letting us come and speak today. My name is Jana McKelvey. I'm from Austin, Texas, and I am one of the co-founders of Texans for Special Education Reform. And mine is a little different. I came to support friends and meet people in Waco who may need our assistance, but I felt compelled to come and speak to you because, and I don't have anything prepared, so bear with me. But I don't know if you're aware or not. We are a group of parents, basically suburban moms, and we, starting back in September, over the course of several months, exposed the no-bid sole source contract that TEA had set up with a company that looks and smells a lot like what you guys are dealing with. There was also another company embedded within that contract to this day that they won't acknowledge. Took TEA's credit. They've brought us to the table. We meet with them every 2 weeks. We meet with deputy commissioners. So we clearly made an impact. And as all that was happening, the DOE report came down as well. So I wanted to encourage you and give you hope and inspire you, hopefully, that if a small group of suburban moms can stop the TEA, so can you. So can these school boards who come together. And the final thing I want to say is, when I read through, when I've seen your reports, I've seen the coverage and articles and such, and I see nothing about special education, and I'm very worried about it. I've looked into transformation zones that TEA has put out there, the information that's been put out there. I don't know anything about Prosper Waco, I can't speak to that. But I have researched the other companies that are the acceptable partners that TEA will be assigning to the different districts that were awarded this grant. And they are all privatizers. They are all funded. And some of them are funders. So everything the ladies and Mr. Swanson said before me is absolutely what's happening. And I went through every staff member of every one of those companies, and I think that there were 3 that had special education experience. So I say to you, and I say to the families in Waco who have children with special needs, who could be affected by this, if in fact you guys decide to vote for this, that you stay involved, that you stay on top of this, because there's a real concern about who's going to educate these children and give them what they need. So thank you very much for letting me speak.
And lastly, from Waco, Dr. Bonnie Leslie.
Good evening. For those of you who may not know, I spent 5 years as an assistant and deputy superintendent of this district, and so I have skin in the game. And I come to you tonight with the same request, and that is that you not allow TEA to take away our schools. Linda Etheridge, who's a past president of this board, and I formed Texas Kids Can't Wait in 2011 in our outrage about the forced closing of schools in Waco at that time. We cared deeply and passionately about the kids, about the staff, about democracy, and about the future, and that's why we organized. And we learned a whole lot of things over time about what was going on. And what we have put together is exactly what you've heard earlier, and that is this whole thing has nothing to do with the kids' performance on the test. It has everything to do with an intense desire by a lot of people in Texas to destroy public education and turn it over to privatization entirely. So they're not going to be satisfied with the 5 schools that are on the list now. They want them all, and they're coming after them, just as you've been told. I can tell you for sure from reading research for my entire career, and I went to Baylor too, so I know how to read that stuff. I can tell you what doesn't work. And what doesn't work is reconstitution does not work when it totally disrupts a school. Strategic planning does not work. It just consumes a lot of time and money when people in the schools are the ones who need to be doing that planning anyway. Testing kids till they die does not work. It teaches them to hate school and to dread coming. And it takes the joy out of both teaching and learning when the only things that teachers can teach is what's been scripted for them. Grading schools with A and F grades does not work. It's shaming and humiliation. It is not incentive and inspiration. Charters do not work. Vouchers do not work. Cyber schools do not work. Innovation schools do not work. And I can tell you for sure transformation schools aren't going to work either. But we do know what does work. And here's what works. Raising the minimum wage in Waco and ensuring kids have health care would go a long way to improving their performance in school, because that has everything to do with their cognitive development, their social development, and their health. Respecting them and using programs such as restorative justice, which I know that you have some pilots in, would be helpful. The only turnaround program in this nation that has proven to be effective is community schools, not any of this other stuff. We have parts of that in Waco with the Communities in Schools program, but we don't have nearly enough, and that's where the money should be going, and not to some company from Boston or from Mumbai to tell you how to do your jobs. Small classes work, particularly for children who come from poverty. High quality out-of-school programs work. Richard Rothstein has proven through intensive research that poor kids learn at the same rate as rich kids during the school day. It's out-of-school programs that make the difference and cause the achievement gap. So we need to use our funds to provide high-quality, arts-laden programs on Saturdays after school, summer school for these children.
Dr. Leslie,
We need money.
I know, you know I could listen to you all night, and we've had very many discussions. I do think you're 3 minutes.
Thank you.
Tired. Thank you, ma'am. Mr. DeBeer, do you also have a presentation you were going to make?
Thank you, Mr. President. And I want to begin just by congratulating Mrs. Cordaweg on the birth of your daughter. We really appreciate you taking the time away from your newborn daughter this evening to be with us. It certainly speaks to your dedication to the children of our district, and we look forward to welcoming your daughter to our classrooms as one of them.
For the record, I've got a note here to welcome Anna Catherine Cordaweg. I just wasn't there yet. So you stole my thunder.
Well,
But that's
I'm sorry
all right.
to jump the gun, Mr. President. Also, we want to mark January as School Board Appreciation Month and express our deep appreciation for each of you and your volunteer service to the children and taxpayers of our community. We know that this is at times an incredibly challenging job, at times a not very appreciated job, and we want you to know that we appreciate what you do. And our students and our staff wanted you to know that as well, and so we have a short message from them that we'd like to play for you this evening.
Welcome to the good life. Welcome to the good life.
The wait is over. All I gotta say is
Welcome to the good life.
you're welcome.
And from all of us at West Avenue, we would like to thank you for everything that you do for us. Yay!
Thank you. We are thankful
For the Waco Board of Trustees and Mr. Manning.
Gracias. Thank you. Thank you. Queremos darle unas gracias a Larry Pérez por siempre soportar nuestra escuela, Cesar Chavez Middle School.
From everybody at Cesar Chavez Middle School, we would like to thank the Board of Directors of Waco ISD for all their help.
Mrs. Tico, we want to thank you and the rest of our school board for supporting our school. Yay! Thank you. Thank you, school board.
For supporting our Mountain View teachers.
Thank you, School Board, for supporting our literacy aides.
Mr. Cesar Sykes and the Waco ISD School Board. On the behalf of myself and the Texans here at Tennyson, we want to give you a big Texan.
From everyone at the Atlas Academy.
Thank you, Mr. Sykes!
And the rest of the school board, we appreciate everything you do.
Thank you, Mr. Sykes and the school board for all the hard work y'all been doing here from Tennyson Middle School, where all Texans have true grit.
Thank you, Mr. Sykes. T-H-A-K. Thank you, Mr. Sykes. T-H-A-K. Thank you, Mr. Sykes. Let's try T-H-A-K. Thank you, Mr. Sykes. 2, 3. Thank you, Mr. Sykes, and the rest of the school board.
Carrie Dupuy and the rest of the school board. Thank you for providing a variety of extracurriculars here at Waco High School.
And thank you for the opportunities and support that you've given Waco ISD Athletic Department.
And thank you for supporting our CT Academies Guama and Guaca group.
And thank you for your support of the dual credit and AP programs.
Yay!
Greetings from Waco High School. We are very proud of our Board of Trustees because one thing, they're very unique. Most school boards, normally they serve for a particular district as long as they have a child and attending a school within that district. What's special about our Board of Trustees is that most of them kids are long gone, yet they still serve. And we really appreciate their time and their effort to make WISD the best school district in Texas. So thank you so much for serving us and our kids and our community. Thank you very much. From Waco High School.
Thank you.
Help our programs grow, and we'll sing. Ring-a-ling-a-ding-dong, dip-dee-dip-dee-I-O. Do-what-I-do, we appreciate you so.
Just want to say a big thank you to Pat Atkins and the rest of the school board for everything you do for University High School and the entire district. It is very much appreciated, especially here at University High School.
Thank you, school board, from the Academy of Education and the Trojan Tides.
Gracias por apoyar nuestra escuela University High School.
Muchas gracias.
Thank you, board members from University High School, GRTC Trojan Battalion.
Hey now, you're an all-star. Get your game on, go play. Hey now, you're a rock star. Get the show on, get paid. Only shooting stars break the mold.
So thank you very much for your service. We're joined tonight by representatives from each of our campuses who are here to say thank you as well. They've brought you some small tokens of their appreciation, and more than that, a little bit of school spirit from each of our campuses. So thank you. We truly appreciate your volunteer service to our community.
Thank you, Mr. DeBeer.
By the way, we'd like to order 7 copies of that, please.
That's just for his family, by the way. Thank you all, and for the video. That was very touching and very sweet. And now I'm lost on where we are on the agenda. We have, let's see. All right, we have moved beyond audience for guests. The next item is discussion possible action 9A. We've been asked to pull, which brings us to the external audit results. Ms. Davis? Where's mine? There it is.
Yes, we have finally finished our audit process this year. It was a very long, drawn-out process. We had great results, and we do have Debbie Kirkham-Young, who is a partner with Weaver and Tidwell, from our audit firm here tonight to present the results of the 2016-17 audit.
Good evening. Glad to be here tonight to present to you the annual financial report. It was very nice looking at all of those talented students that you have in those videos. Beginning with your annual audit report, I know you each have a copy of it in front of you and you've received it earlier, but if you begin on page 29, page 29 is the first part of the exhibits of the financial statements, and these two first exhibits are done just once a year, consolidating the district, all of the general fund, all the governmental funds, service, capital projects, your proprietary funds, and including the capital assets and all the long-term liabilities to measure net position. And you can see in these particular financial statements, your total assets were $260 million, deferred outflows $33 million, total liabilities $232 million, and deferred inflows of $2.1 million, and then your net position of $59 million. On the next page is the statement of activities, which the expenses were $187 million consolidated, charges for services were $5.7 million, operating grants and contributions $40 million. Then your general revenues, which accounts for all those things that are not specific to a function, were $140 million, and you ended up with a net position of $59 million. And I always share with you that those include the capital assets, which are non-spendable. It's measuring net position and not fund balance. And the financial statements that begin on page 31 are the ones that mirror the monthly financial statements that you see that you get from Ms. Davis. Because school districts are required to keep their books on a modified accrual basis, and that's what the exhibits begin on page 31. So I'm going to spend more time on those particular exhibits. The first column on page 31 is the general fund, which accounts for the general operations of the district, had total assets of $56 million, which was primarily cash and investments, cash $30 million, investments $20 million. You had liabilities of $10 million. Those unavailable property taxes, those that are recorded in your assets up above, but you haven't collected them yet, so they're reported as a deferred inflow of $1.2 million. And then your total fund balance of $44 million, and $39 million of that is unassigned. Your next column is your National School Breakfast and Lunch Fund. Had $2.8 million in assets, which was primarily cash. Your liabilities, $608,000, and a restricted fund balance of $2.2 million. The next column is your debt service fund, which collects property taxes for the payment of your general obligation bonds. Had $4.9 million in total assets, $290,000 in deferred inflows. Those are those property taxes that are not collected yet, and a fund balance of $4.6 million that's restricted for the payment of the general obligation bonds. The next column, your non-major governmental funds, which is primarily your special revenues and the non-major capital projects fund, had $5.1 million in assets, $3.7 million in liabilities, $1.3 million in fund balance. And those special revenues, when I refer to those are like your individual grants that are flow through federal and state grants like Title I special ed, and various textbook allotment and those type grants. Yes, and there are combining schedules for all of those after the notes to the financial statements. I'm not going to go through those, but if you look, they refer to them as the Exhibit H1 and H2. Beginning on page 33 is the statement of revenues, expenditures, and changes in fund balance, and this is probably the most always important schedule that people want to look at. The first column on page 33, your general fund took in $140 million, which was primarily local revenues, $60 million, which is primarily taxes, and your state revenues, $74 million. Your expenditures were $139 million, and you had some transfers out of $1.5 million. And so overall, you decreased your fund balance $1 million, which brought it from $45 million to $44 million. And your National School Breakfast Fund took in $9.9 million, which was primarily federal funds of $9.1. Your expenditures were $9.4 million. You increased fund balance $522,000, which brought it from $1.7 million to $2.2 million. The next column, your debt service fund, which collected revenues of $13 million, which was primarily your property taxes, $11.6 million, and state money of $1.5 million. Expenditures of $14 million, which is principal and interest and debt service fees, and transfers in of $1.1 million, which came from the general fund. And then your overall increase was $7,000, which brought fund balance from $4.6 million, 46 to 4.653. The next column, your non-major funds, had total revenues of $21 million. You can see that's primarily your federal grants of $14 million. You also had some state money in there, and then your campus activity funds, which is primarily your $4 million. But overall, your expenditures were $22 million, and you had some transfers in from the general fund of $344,000, and so overall you had a decrease of $305,000, which brought the special revenue funds and capital projects from $1.6 million to $1.3 million. The other important exhibit is on page 35, which is your self-funded workers' compensation. Had $1.4 million in assets, $404,000 in liabilities, and $1 million in unrestricted net position. And I always like to say that claims adjustments, that $389,000, that's where the district's conservative in getting an actuarial calculation for that claims incurred but not reported, those workers' comp claims that you don't know about, and that's in accordance with governmental accounting standards. Page 36 is your revenues and expenditures of that workers' comp and unemployment claims. Took in $446,000 from the other funds, paid out claims and administrative cost of $445,000. So an overall stabilization where you increased it $1,000 from $1.11 million to $1.12 million. Beginning on page 38 is just the fiduciary funds, and I'm just going to let you know those are monies you're holding in a fiduciary capacity for scholarship funds and also for students. But then beginning on page 40 is the notes to the financial statements, and probably the most important footnote in your audit report is on page 59. And that's your long-term liabilities. And I want to say the notes give lots of other information about all the exhibits. Going to explain the different funds. It's going to explain revenue recognition. It's going to explain further information on investments, capital assets. But I think this is always the most important one on 59. How much do we owe and when is it all going to be paid back? And so the table in the middle of page 59, changes in long-term liabilities, you can see your bonds payable are made up of general obligation bonds, lease revenue bonds, the premiums on those bonds, and also because you have some capital appreciation bonds, the accumulated accretion. And so those total bonds payable net, you had $191 million at the beginning of the year. At the end of the year, your ending balance was $183 million. And then your workers' compensation claims, those self-insurance claims, $389,000. Then that net pension liability that you had to pick up a couple of years ago for your proportionate share of the TRS, $37 million, which gave total long-term liabilities of $221 million. On the next page, at page 60, you might be asking what makes up all of those various bond series, and the top of page 60 breaks down each of the individual issues and the balance of each of those beginning and ending. And then the next table on page 60 in the middle of the page gives the principal and interest to maturity of all the bonds collectively. I just want to mention too is those pension schedules that give you a little bit greater detail are on page 78 and 79. And when you look at page 78, you look at the net pension liability of how it's changed and the fiduciary net position. I think that's always interesting because I know board members care about their teachers and their retirements, and you can see how the fiduciary net position has dropped, but I looked at the TRS CAFR that's online, and that showed that it's gone back up to 82%. So I guess the things that you hear in the news, do you like your 401k? TRS, Gloria has said they did have great results last year in their investments, and so I think we're going to see that look a lot better. Not sure exactly how it's all going to flow through on your proportionate share. Also next year, just while I'm on this, the thing that's going to hit your financials last year, a few years ago, it's not hitting the fund balance because a lot of times board members say, why do we have a liability? I thought we pay. You do. If you look at page 79, you're paying everything you're required to pay legislatively. What the district was required to pay was $3.2 million, and you paid in that $3.2 million. But based on what the legislator requires the funding to be and what they're doing, there is a liability. It's not like a 401k plan that's fully funded. It's a pension trust fund. And so this next year, you're going to have something similar in that school districts are going to be required to pick up that post-employment benefit from the TRS care. And so we'll be getting information. TRS hasn't put that out yet. We know what the total numbers are, but we don't know yet what your proportionate share is. And as I mentioned, those first two statements that are just done once a year to measure financial position, that's where it's going to affect. It's not going to affect your fund balance because you're paying in everything you're required to pay. It's just on that net position that you had to pick up pensions, and now you're going to have to pick up the TRS care. The most important thing after that, like Cheryl mentioned, you're going to have the H exhibits that begin on about page 84, and I'm not going to go through those. Those are just greater breakdown in your financial statements, but page 111 kind of summarizes all the letters that you see with the Weaver letterhead, and those are the various independent auditors' reports for the governmental auditing standards, the AICPA, and also uniform guidance. And so the first part on page 111 is summary of auditors' results. TEA wants to know when they receive these audit reports, they get in PDF, they get in PEMS data, they get in ASCII data, and they want to know how can they rely on it. And the district received an unmodified opinion, no material weaknesses, no significant deficiencies, and no non-compliance. Federal awards, you also received an unmodified opinion, no material weaknesses, no significant deficiencies, and no non-compliance. And the federal program we audited was the child nutrition cluster. And that kind of summarizes up a good report, a clean report, the highest level of assurance that you can receive. And my compliments to Cheryl and Davis and all of her staff. We ask for a lot of things at interim. We ask for a lot of things at year end. And we appreciate all the things that they provided and their professionalism and courtesies. And I'd be glad to answer any questions you might have.
All right. Are there any questions from the board? No? Sure. All right. Then I will entertain them. Go ahead, Ms. Sykes.
Mine's more of a comment. Thank you to your firm, your audit team, for the work that you've done in delivering our report tonight, and certainly thank you to Cheryl Davis and her team on the administrative side for doing all the detail work to get us to this point on a clean report. Certainly important to us, looking at the financials, to have this year after year, and we enjoy the review and enjoy opportunity to review that. So. At this time, I'll make a motion that we approve the annual financial and compliance report for the year ended August 31st, 2017 as presented.
Thank you, Ms. Sykes. Is there a second?
Second.
I'll give that to Ms. Cordaweg because she's a new mother. Any other questions or comments from the board? All right, then we'll proceed to a vote. All those in favor, say aye. Aye. All those opposed, motion carries unanimously. We'll move on to the consent agenda. I know before voting, the superintendent did want to make some comments on one of the items. Why don't we, I guess, do regular order. Let's take a motion and a second, and then we can proceed to comments and discussion. Is there a motion to adopt the consent agenda as presented? We can do either way. We can either we can pull it if there's a request to pull it. We can vote on it separately, or we can discuss it and vote on it. We're definitely going to discuss it. The question is, do we leave it on the consent agenda while we discuss it, or we can vote on it separately? Whatever the board. Mr. Sykes has asked that we pull it, so we'll go ahead and pull it. So I will entertain a motion to adopt the consent agenda with the exception of item C.
So moved.
That'll go to Mr. Dupuy. Ms. Cordaway will get the second. Any other questions, comments, or discussion on anything other than item C? All right, then all those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed, the consent agenda, with the exception of item C, is adopted. Dr. Nelson, I know you wanted to make some comments on the transformation zone plan.
Thank you, Mr. President. First of all, I wanted to thank all of our special guests who have joined our city this evening. Obviously, this is a very important topic for them to spend their time and their talent. As a superintendent of schools, I've watched closely several urban school districts, including Richardson. Even though we don't consider Highland Park to be urban, we not at all, but we certainly watch them as well and use them as an anomaly, so to speak. I'm very familiar with the Houston Independent School District. I believe the whole state follows them as the largest school district. I feel like we have celebrities in the house with the Beckers because they have been passionate advocates for their cause, and I feel like I know them from watching them at Houston ISD meetings. We clap here. In Houston, they throw their hands up. I'm used to seeing that. Yeah, you don't have to do that here. But we want to thank you, and we're very familiar with Madam President Rhonda Skillern-Jones, the entire Board of Trustees in Houston, and their outstanding Superintendent Richard Carranza. We share the passion that team shares to take care of our own kids. And with all due respect to the outstanding comments, it's somewhat silly to insinuate we've been sleeping and not watching this. We have 5 schools impacted by this legislation. And one of our biggest informants on the attack on public schools is the lovely Dr. Leslie. She is a former deputy superintendent, as she said. I've had the opportunity to have lunch with her and visit with her. And I know for a fact that this area is focused on a common agenda. With all due respect to the comments made, the school district's in a tough spot. And, you know, I can see how you want us to be the ones to take on, quote unquote, the bully. That's not our role. Our role is to take care of our kids and come up with a plan that deals with this unfair legislation. By asking the board to consider action tonight, I want to be clear, we are in no way separating ourselves from your cause. We actually want to join in your fight. If you've listened to community presentations we've made over the last 3 to 6 months, we've made comments like we're prepared to join the Houston Independent School District and others in legal action to file a federal injunction to stop the actions of House Bill 1842 and Senate Bill 1882. So if you want to do that, then see our counsel, Peter Rustick, who's here, and vamonos. We can go have that conversation. That's how serious we are about standing up for our community and the impact closing 5 schools would have on the future of our fine city. We have our honorable mayor who's here and has been at all of our community meetings, and that's just a glimpse of how committed our honorable elected officials are to supporting the public school system in saving our schools. Closing schools is not an option for us. It's something we've never considered. And while we are excited about our partnership with Prosper Waco, we understand that we have to perform better. Because regardless of Texas Education Agency sanctions, we believe our kids can do better. And we really want to work with our teachers and our campuses to maintain local control of our school. With all due respect to Houston Independent School District, San Antonio, Austin, Midland, several of the other school districts that we have researched our proposal against, we feel like ours is the best. The members of Prosper Waco Board of Trustees, Board of Directors, are all honorable men and women who are well respected in this community. Several former mayors, business leaders, leaders of several of our large hospitals, including Baylor Scott and White, Providence, and Family Community Health Center. And so the executive director of Prosper Waco is a former superintendent of schools, has a master's of business and administration from Baylor University and a PhD from Harvard. So we feel like he's more than qualified to partner with the public school system to save our schools and keep them locally. Are we frustrated with Texas Education Agency? Our local paper has already documented my frustration. We share your concerns and we want to partner with you. Dr. Leslie can tell you we're ready to come to the table and we take this very seriously. In the meantime, we can't wait for grassroots efforts to fight the large organization that is the large organization, Shelley. No, okay. Large organization, bureaucracy that is the Texas Education Agency that, with all due respect, those men and women, including the Honorable Commissioner, are just following legislation that was approved by your elected officials. So we're having conversations about the upcoming legislative sessions, and hopefully we can join together and partner on trying to get relief to some of these unfunded mandates that we continue to receive from the Texas Education Agency. The fact that most of the kids in Texas, over 60% of the kids in Texas, are from low income. And so I believe that poverty can never be an excuse for kids to not be successful on any kind of assessment. I believe that we have perverted standardized testing, and we need to come up with multiple forms of assessments that help kids get to the college or career of their choice. And last but certainly not least, I just want to give this board confidence that with possible action tonight, our struggle is not over to fight for our school district, to keep our school district open, to protect the tradition and pride and sanctity of our beloved public school organization. We love our kids just like you love yours, and we appreciate you coming here and helping us communicate a message of change. Transformation for us is not driven by state politics. It's driven by differentiating instruction for each student that we have. We love all 15,043 of our kids, and it's our goal to come up with a plan that keeps those schools open. So whether or not TEA is fair, that's not for vote tonight. We agree with you. Whether or not this proposal is the best solution, it keeps our schools open. And I also wanted to put for the record, this is not a social impact bonds issue. On behalf of Prosper Waco, there's not a transfer of funds where they make money on this. For us, this is about partnering with a local nonprofit organization that we are confident can coordinate a host of services in our city that will help us improve student outcomes. So with that, I want to thank again our guests. We applaud your passion. We look forward to follow-up conversations with the lovely Bonnie Leslie, and Texas Kids Can't Wait, and we agree with you. However, we've got to take care of our business right now. And this business doesn't commit us to charter networks. Prosper Waco doesn't have a lot of experience with charter schools. That's not what they're doing. They're an internal organization that is serving as the sole authority, quote unquote, but it's a partnership. And we will never just abdicate the leadership of our schools to anyone. It won't happen, not on my watch. Mr. President.
Thank you, Dr. Nelson. There are other comments from the board, Mr. Sykes?
Thank you, Mr. Atkins. Thank you for your comments, Dr. Nelson. This process has been a long time coming. A lot of plans, preparation, discussions have been going on for an extended period of time, leading us to this point. As we can tell, there's a lot of different perspectives of comments that we've received tonight. Comments like local control, choice, standing strong. What I've observed in talking with community members, elected representatives, and administrators across the district and families, that there is a large degree of support for the plan that's currently presented to us tonight. I'm encouraged by the fact that Dr. Nelson has never changed his position. He has been very steadfast in the whole 7 months that he's been with us to the point that he just reiterated tonight regarding his perspective and his feelings about Waco schools, Waco public schools, and the position TEA has put us in. I would love to be in a position to table this motion tonight. But given the fact, after hearing Dr. Nelson repeat his position without any change, without any alteration, without any modification, I respect that. And I respect the challenge that we have facing us in conjunction with the possibility of working and collaborating with Prosper Waco. But what this motion does, it authorizes the superintendent to proceed with negotiations. So as best I can tell, that kind of allows the process to continue without finality. And I think that's good for the city of Waco, especially when considering the position TEA has put us in. And given the fact that Dr. Nelson has accepted the challenge and willing to collaborate, I think that's an important mark to note that we want to join that process, but we've got to take care of Waco and the kids of WISD.
Thank you, Mr. Sykes. Other questions or comments from the board? Mr. Manning.
I concur with Mr. Sykes over there, and because of the fact that the meetings that we have had with the community and the support that's been shown in this community, and we brought Dr. Nelson in here for a specific reason, being the 2014-2015 Superintendent of the Year in Texas, and he has risen to the occasion for us. And we believe and trust in him of what he's trying to do. As he, one thing about it is the students first. Will always be the students first. And as he has said before, we will not close schools here in Waco. So we are supporting our superintendent and the directions and suggestions that he has given us. At least I am.
Thank you, Mr. Manning. Other questions or comments? All right. Yeah, Mr. Dupuy.
It's on. Agree with everything that Dr. Nelson said, but also want to reemphasize that, you know, in the end, the real power is in our elected representatives that we send to Austin. And I don't think things change until they've heard and believe us. That's where the real power is. It's not in the TEA. You know, I think that authority is granted them from the, well, and actually it's the legislature that comes up with these crazy schemes. TEA is just there to enforce it. But, so, vote. Don't know what else to do. Letter writing campaign. Let them hear you. But thank you for being here also and making the trip. Agree with most, if not all, that you said. And appreciate and agree with your sentiments. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Dupuy. Other questions, comments from the board? Yes. Mr. Pettis.
As I was listening to the people from Houston, Dallas, Austin, I turned around and told Dr. Nelson that I'm trusting you. So he shook his head. And that's why we hired him, because we trusted him. He's done well in the past, and I like the action that he has so far done. And I think that he can lead us the way to success, or else he wouldn't be here. So I thank y'all for coming. I appreciate the courage that y'all have to come over here to express your agenda. And I wish y'all luck on the way back home. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Pettis. Other questions, comments from the board? Ms. Cordaway?
Yeah.
All right.
Okay. I appreciate your comments, and I, along with Dr. Nelson, completely agree and stand in solidarity with what you guys were communicating. You know, at convocation on the first day of school, we watched this, you know, Dr. Nelson had the speech, and we watched this one image from this movie where these football players were going and they were practicing. And I can't get it out of my mind because they're going and they're practicing and they're doing what they need to do. But then the coach says, hey, you're going to carry this other player on your back to the end zone. And the player said, I can't do it. I can't do it. There's no way I can't do it. And he said, you're going to do it. He blindfolds him. The other player gets on this football player's back, and he says, okay, just keep going. Just keep going. Just keep going. And the football player doesn't know where the end zone is, has no idea where the end is. He has no idea, but the coach is behind him saying, you can do it. Keep going, keep going, keep going. And, you know, this guy kind of wants to quit because he doesn't know where the end zone is. He doesn't want to carry this player. He doesn't think he can do it. And he ends up making it. He ends up making it to the end zone. And that's kind of how I feel like what we're doing. TA hasn't given us the end zone, but they've asked us to carry an extra player after we've already been practicing. And I think the administrators on campuses, teachers, parents, and this community have stepped up to the plate. And they've said, we don't know where that end zone is, but by golly, we're going to push, and we're going to do it. So we're kind of going forward blindly, but we're going to move forward because the community has spoken. Our teachers whose campuses are not IR, but who are going to be affected by some of the transformation plans said, you know what, we're in because it's for the best of the kids in this community. And I think, I think that image just keeps playing through my mind because our teachers have been practicing, our kids have been doing it. And I think, Dr. Nelson says our plan A is always to make it. And it's really going to take, my daughter's 1 week old. It's going to take everyone in this game, and I think I can't speak for the school board, but I'll speak for myself. I'll do what it takes to make sure that our teachers, our kids, and our administration have whatever they need. And I know that Dr. Nelson, I know that he will be that coach saying, you can do it. Keep pushing. Don't stop. Keep going. And so I have full trust in Dr. Nelson being that coach, and I want to do whatever it takes to empower him to lead this district, not just to partnership with Prosper Waco, but to these 5 schools just making it first go around.
Thank you, Ms. Cordaway. I think for the first time, I don't have anything to add. I think y'all have covered it very well. I want to thank all of my colleagues on the board for their expressing their sentiments. I do, at this time, need a motion with respect to item 10C to authorize the superintendent to negotiate a partnership with Prosper Waco regarding the transformation zone plan. Thank you, Ms. Pettis. Is there a second? Second. Thank you, Mr. Manning. Any other questions, comments, discussion? All right. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed? Motion carries unanimously. We will move on to item 11, discussions and updates. Update on the continuous improvement governance work, outcomes as a result of wraparound services provided by CIS. Dr. Nelson?
Thank you, Mr. President. At this time, I'd like to introduce our Assistant Superintendent of Student Services, who will introduce our special guest from Communities in Schools, Dr. Robin McDermott, to introduce our speakers.
Thank you, Dr. Nelson, Mr. President, Board of Trustees. I would like to introduce Mike Harper and Hannah Kuehl with Communities in Schools. They have been a longtime partner, getting close to 25 years of serving students in Waco ISD. Love to let them speak to you about student outcomes related to their services.
Thank you.
Mr. President and school board members, Dr. Nelson, it's a privilege to partner with the 10 campuses within the district that we partner with. We thank each of you for your continued support of Communities in Schools. We appreciate the opportunity tonight. We know it's getting late, but we appreciate the opportunity to share about some incredible work our team is doing with students on Waco ISD campuses. Our affiliate is part of the National Communities in School Network, the nation's largest dropout prevention and student success organization. Each affiliate here in Texas receives a grant from funding appropriated by the state legislature each session, and that's administered through the Texas Education Agency. TEA sets the requirements of our affiliate regarding the number of students to be served, as well as the targeted outcomes. We are provided funding knowing that it's not enough to support and provide everything that we need to do to reach our targeted outcomes, and we must leverage this funding from the state with other dollars through fundraising that we do, through other grants, and through the district's cost share. The second slide there shows the district's cost share. It's about $30,000, or it is $30,000 a campus. Roughly $64,500 and change is what it costs for us to put a professional on each of these campuses. So the district is only paying $30,000 of that. We leverage this amount to hire full-time, highly trained professional employees for each of the campuses. That's on each of these 10 partner campuses. I would like to note that CIS core programming is supplemented by what I might call an overlay of programs for this core CIS model through the CYD contract, a workforce contract, and work with AmeriCorps and other grants. As a result, campuses within our CYD program have additional full-time employees on campus. Providence Heights has 2 full-time employees, still at $30,000. Indian Spring has 3 full-time employees, still at $30,000. And Waco High has 3 full-time employees, plus career coaches through our workforce program to work with students on those campuses. And that doesn't include the mentors, the tutors, or the AmeriCorps volunteers that we bring to campuses. All of these services for the same $30,000 cost share per campus. I'd now like for my Chief Operations Officer, Hannah Kuehl, to talk a little bit about our CIS model.
Thank you. As Mike mentioned, we are the Heart of Texas affiliate of the nation's largest dropout prevention program. And really our evidence-based model is relationships. We receive this model from CIS National, in which we hire a helping professional for each one of the sites that we serve. and they form their team. So if this is CYD staff as well as AmeriCorps members, volunteers, and they take that team and we work with the school administration to come up with a campus plan. We really want to make sure that whatever we're doing on campus aligns with the goals that the school has already set for themselves. So our team works with the administration. We come up with a plan that everyone agrees on that is addressing those issues, and then we start to implement our integrated student services. We do that on a 3-tier level. Our tier 1 services really address all of the students that are on the campus. So this might look like a reading day at Brook Avenue where we bring in football players from Baylor to read to the students. This may look like attending parent involvement nights and signing students up for FAFSA and working with parents on college applications. This may look like trips to college campuses so our students have an idea and can see their future that we're helping them plan. Our Tier 2 services really bring in partners from the community. So we may bring in Voice or the Advocacy Center or Girl Scouts to provide group services to our students on self-esteem, anger management, kind of whatever the school has identified that these students might need. And then we have our Tier 3 services, which are really when we get to do the one-on-one with students. We meet with each student, they develop their own goals so that we know that they're invested. And each set of goals addresses either academics, behavior, or attendance. So we work with the student throughout the school year to address those goals, and we're always reassessing, making sure that the student is making progress towards those goals. And if they're not, we readjust that plan, see if the student is interested in another way to kind of approach their goals. We also work with the schools. We give them presentations, give them that information so that they kind of know what the progress that we're making as well. At the end of the school year, we make sure to talk to parents and students, teachers, get their input on what went well, what didn't go so well, what we can change next year, and we implement those changes for the next year.
Next thing on the next slide is our TEA data from this past year. Noting very first thing that we were a little under in 2 areas. Under behavior improvements, you notice that TEA's target was 85%. We were just under that at 83%. This is an area that we've done a ton of training for our staff this year. That's not good enough, and we are working to fix that. In addition, I also want to talk about graduation rates. Graduation rates, the TEA target is 90% for us. We were a little under that again at 85%. We are working with students, and we realize that there are a number of students who are passing classes and things that we're doing to work with them on that, but they still haven't passed all of their end of course tests. I know I'm preaching to the choir here, and it's something that certainly the district is working at, but we're working at it from a CIS perspective as well, encouraging students to go to Saturday school for STAR prep, encouraging students to practice STAR with their tutors that we provide. Additional training also is planned for CIS staff on the requirements of graduation and working continually to work on this. It's my understanding, though, that these numbers, although a little under TEA's targets for us, are higher than the district's overall numbers. And we are working with the students that the campus targets or identifies to us that really need a lot of help. I would like to say, though, that in all of those other statistics there, that we are surpassing TEA's targets for the CIS affiliate here in Waco. The attendance targets, even though it's a little higher than what's required from TEA, we're still working on that. That's still not good enough for us. In fact, we're piloting a program of success mentoring at Brook Avenue Elementary this semester. But I do want to point out 2 other numbers, that 90% of the students that we work with promote to the next grade level. And I really want to point out that 99% of the students with whom CIS works, with TEA's numbers and TEA data here, they stay in school. And at the end of the day, that's what we're all about, working with students, encouraging them, and in helping them be successful in life. I also want to point out in our contract this year, TEA has set the number of students that we should serve in Waco ISD And they have set that target of 1,940 students, and to date, we have already case managed, which is that model, working with students, 1,699. So we're roughly at 87% already case managed at this point in the year. Certainly, that gives us more time to work with those students over the next couple of months, finish out our complete caseload, and make sure that we case manage all of these students. But we are well on the way of doing that this year, and look forward to seeing the data at the end of the year on all of these different percentages and all. We also wanted to highlight 2 of the different grants that we bring to the district along with the cost share that y'all share. And the first one of those is CYD. And I'm going to step out of the way and let one of the social workers from my organization talk about that one.
So our community youth development program is an additional kind of enhancement to our regular core programming. These are students that are identified in the 76707 area code for juvenile delinquency, and we provide them additional leadership opportunities. So this may look like leadership curriculum. One of the more exciting things that they get to do is the possibility of joining our youth advisory council, which gets to do team building and leadership activities like the Baylor Ropes course and the Baylor Marina. Actually, the picture that is pictured is an Indian Springs student from last year, Betzarine, at the ropes course. One of the other things that they get to do as the Youth Advisory Council is get to have a say in their community. So they meet, they talk about what's going on in the community, they talk about community involvement activities and volunteer activities that they can contribute to. And they also have the opportunity to become a part of the Texas Institute in the summer, where they go to a college campus and get leadership training throughout the summer.
The other program that's highlighted there is the Workforce Development Program. It is a contract that we have through the Workforce Solutions of the Heart of Texas, serving youth ages 16 to 24, both in-school youth and those non-traditional students that are no longer in school, the out-of-school youth. We do career exploration, career counseling. We also help with job searching and job readiness activities, and then also have opportunities for paid work experience for these youth, as well as career coaching through soft skills training, etc. I wanted to point out 2 students that are pictured here. The first at the bottom left is Eric. He graduated from University High this past May, and this past summer he participated in our summer work experience internship. He was placed at the Animal Birth Control Clinic and was able there, working during the summer, to gain valuable experience of working with medical equipment. You don't always think about in a clinic like that, but certainly skills that could transfer over to a hospital. He worked there this summer, was paid for the internship, had an incredible experience, and is now enrolled at MCC. Certainly a success for Waco ISD and a success for our program through the Workforce Development Grant. The second picture there is Jessica on the other side. She's standing there with Becca, her career coach. Jessica was at Waco High, wasn't as successful there, tried Brazos as a single mom with a young kid. That didn't work in her schedule either. And so we started serving her as an out-of-school youth. But there's good news here. Jessica kind of went a different path than most of us think we normally go through. She was able to complete the certified nurses aid training and completed that and has a certificate as a CNA. After she completed that and started working as a CNA, her career coach, Becca, encouraged her, you really need your high school equivalency exam. And this past October, she completed that as well. And as a true success, she's now enrolled this semester at MCC and is going to college. Y'all don't always get to see the students that aren't successful through the traditional path, but this is one of those examples. And I'm excited that she's a part of our CIS family and what we're able to do. The very last slide this evening, I do thank y'all for the opportunity to present this evening, but I wanted to point out what our theme this year has been, putting relationships first. Programs don't change kids. Through the founder of Communities and Schools, Bill Milliken, he said that relationships, people change other kids. And it's through those relationships we've really put an emphasis this year. Emphasis on working with our campuses, working with the students that we're working with, their parents, as well as other community partners. And we're excited about the future and look forward to, we hope, many, many more years of working with Waco ISD. Thank you.
Mike, Hannah, thank you both. A very impressive report. Questions from the board? Mr. Manning.
Yes, sir. One of the things that you mentioned was parental involvement. How successful are you in getting the parental involvement in the different schools?
I'm going to hand that over.
It really depends on the school. We have a lot of success at the schools that we've been at a long time, and the site coordinators have been there a long time. They've built those relationships with the parents. Parents trust them. We also have a designated parent involvement case manager at Indian Spring Middle School. It was something that they identified as something that they wanted through our community youth development program. And so they have been working with the parents at Indian Spring as well. So it really depends on how long, but we're working on those relationships and building that trust.
Are y'all working with I know because the superintendent has mandated that we have PTAs in the schools. Are y'all working with the PTAs in the school also? Do y'all work separate?
I'm not entirely sure what our involvement is with all of the PTAs in the schools. We can definitely look into it. I know that we work with some of them and have worked closely with Brook Avenue, but I can't say for every single campus.
Well, I would like sometime later, next time, maybe around, I would like to know about how much parental involvement that you have, maybe which one are the best and which one's the worst, and what is working at one school that's not working at another school, just a little bit more. Because parental involvement is one of the key issues and one of the key areas where what we're trying to do will be successful. Because without parental involvement and parental helping these kids and everything, we still gonna make it some way or another, but it's gonna make it just a little bit harder without parental involvement.
Dr. Nelson.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. President. I just wanted to echo the sentiments expressed by Trustee Manning. We look forward to expanding the partnership with communities and schools. They do such outstanding work to help us take care of our kids. And really to address Trustee Manning's question, you know, in the last 6 months, we've mandated a PTA at every campus. It's sad to report that we had to do that. And we're really looking for more parents to help us join in our efforts towards improving student outcomes, impacting legislation, and you know, we need to identify who's our Mr. and Mrs. Becker in Waco that they can check, because they want to talk to me. And I want our parents to really join this movement. It's our kids. And so I just wanted to communicate that Mr. Manning makes a good point. In our community meetings, we've talked to hundreds of people, and everyone talks about the impact of parental engagement and working with our parents as partners. So we're looking forward to Prosper Waco really helping us address that gap and deficit. And I think communities and schools can help us with that as well. The 1,600 students that you serve, no question, you've made an impact on their student outcomes. And boy, I'd like to find a way to double it as we look at our next budget, if we could. So it's only money. So I didn't say we're going to double it. I said I would like to double it. So, but no, I just wanted to echo what Mr. Manning said on parental involvement. Thank you.
Thanks, Dr. Nelson. And again, let the minutes reflect that was not a promise that we were going to double the funding.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Any other questions, comments from the board? Folks, thank you again for staying, and we appreciate the report. Very, very nice job. Before we move on to announcements, I again want to thank the folks from the community who have stayed for the entire meeting, and food service folks, but in particular, Tom Stanton from the Rappaport Foundation, Mayor Deaver, Matthew Polk from Prosper Waco. Thank you guys for staying around. And with that, unless there's anything from the superintendent, we'll move on to the announcements.
While Mr. DeBeer is making his way to the presentation table, I did want to be the first to wish our outstanding Assistant Superintendent of Operations, Mr. Israel Carrera, a very happy birthday yesterday. He's done a great job. And then last but certainly not least, before Mr. DeBeer speaks, it would be very appropriate for me to thank the hard work of Mr. Kyle DeBeer. All the presentations to the community have had documents that he and his office have helped coordinate. His office has coordinated all of the meetings, and we really have made a huge dent in building trust with our community on how transparent we've been. And when it comes to our plans and our applications, I just wanted to publicly acknowledge our new Executive Director of Community Engagement and Public Relations, Mr. Kyle DeBeer, for an outstanding job. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Nelson. I appreciate that. You know, one of the things that we've talked about at our community meetings are ways that the community can share their thoughts and their ideas with us. The meetings were just one facet of that. We also have a new tool that's available online 24/7 called Let's Talk, and it's a way for people to share their questions, share their ideas, get a response if they leave their contact information, or to communicate that information with us anonymously. You can find it on our website at wacoisd.org/let's talk, and we just want to encourage anyone who wants to share something with us to take advantage of this new way to reach us. There are just a wealth of opportunities and programs for students in Waco ISD. And right now, the application period is open for a few key programs that I want to highlight. Both Hillcrest PDS and Lake Air Montessori, our two elementary magnet schools, have an application period that's open through January 31st. Our Atlas Academy Gifted and Talented Middle School program and the Accelerate High School program that allows high school students to earn an associate's degree while they're still in school are open through February 15th. The application process for the Greater Waco Area Academies, both our Advanced Manufacturing Academy and our Healthcare Academy, are open now as well. All of these applications and more details on how to apply can be found on the homepage of our website. Building on that excitement of looking towards next year's class at the Greater Waco Advanced Manufacturing Academy, I'd like to extend an invitation to all of you to join us for the ribbon cutting for the Construction Sciences wing of that academy on February 9th, starting at 2 p.m. We're really excited about the expanded opportunities that this will provide to our construction trades students. And then just because I can't let it slide by without mentioning it, for the second time this season, University High School and Waco High School face off in basketball on February 6th. Our boys are at playing at Waco High School, our girls at University High School, and both of those varsity games tip off at 6:30 p.m. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. DeBeer. Any other announcements from the board? Appreciate everybody's work tonight. I know we got started a little late, but I think we got through it quickly and efficiently. And hearing no objection, we'll stand adjourned.